Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Samashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 24, the Renunciation of Kardama Muni. So, text number, where are we, Mudit Krishna Prabhu?
Guruji, day before yesterday, we have completed 38, 39 and 40, and yesterday 41, 42, 43.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, we will go to 44. Tomorrow we will see the revision because I even did not get time to go through the text. Somehow it was a very busy for me for 2 days, and that's why I could not attend. But yesterday I did attend. Why? Because there is a very important thing in habit formation, which is called as never miss a thing for 2 continuous days. Okay, then that entire, the sequence, uh, the emotional sequence, the biological sequence, the habit formation sequence, that misses. So whenever you take a sankalpa, it is always recommended that you should never miss continuously 2 days. Okay, this is from Atomic Habits, James Clear. So I thought I will join for some time, and that's how I was just there for the prayers. So we come to text 44. Nirahankritir nirmamascha nirdvandva samyadruk swadruk pratyak prashantadhir dhirah prashantovhir ivodadihi. Translation.
Thus, he gradually became unaffected by the false ego of material identity and became free from material affection, undisturbed, equal to everyone, and without duality. He could indeed see himself also. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm, like an ocean unagitated by waves. Purport. When one's mind is in full Krishna consciousness and one fully engages in rendering devotional service to the Lord, he becomes just like an ocean unagitated by waves. This very example is also cited in Bhagavad Gita. One should become like the ocean. The ocean is filled by many thousands of rivers, and millions of tons of its water evaporates into clouds. Yet, the ocean is the same unagitated ocean. The laws of nature may work, but if one is fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, for he is introspective. He does not look outside to material nature, but he looks into the spiritual nature of his existence with a sober mind. He simply engages in the service of the Lord. Thus, he realizes his own self without false identification with matter and without affection for material possessions. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. He sees himself and others in the right perspective. Hare Krishna.
So now we are into the renunciation of Kardama Muni. Thus, he gradually became unaffected by false ego. So, very important word here is gradually. Very, very important. We always stress on this. Renunciation has to be age appropriate. Our advancement, our realizations, they has to be age appropriate, right? So, thus he gradually, he is a godfather, right? He is father of God, literally, in the literal meaning. He's father of Kapila Muni, and he is, such an elevated personality. Supreme Lord has directly appeared to him. He has directly made the match fixing, the matchmaking for Kardama. His wife is Devahūti. His brother, his brother-in-laws are Priyavrat Uttanapat. His father-in-law is Manu, and he gradually, right? So focus on who is he. It's Kardama, right? And he gradually became unaffected by the false ego of material identity, and thus become free from material affection, right? So these are very, very important words. Undisturbed, equal to everyone, and without duality, he could indeed see himself also. So seeing himself means Jivera Swarupa hai Krishnera Nityadas. Okay, realizing one's Swarupa. So this verse, Jiver Swarupa hai Krishna Nityadas, describes about the totality of the living entities. But on an advanced spiritual position, one will really see himself. The the very all the personal details of oneself will be revealed by the mercy of spiritual master and Lord Krishna. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm like an ocean, unagitated by waves. Very amazing verse. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, when mind is full of Krishna consciousness and fully engaged in devotional service, then it becomes like the ocean. And ocean is undisturbed by waves. And there is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita which describes this. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapaha pravishanti yatvat. Tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. Because being full by its own virtue, ocean is always very steady. So many gallons, lakhs of and crores of gallons of water is thrown inside the ocean. You know, there is Brahmaputra, there is Ganga, there is Yamuna, all these rivers. When they are coming to ocean, they are coming with huge quantity of water. But by this water, ocean is never agitated. Ocean is not thinking, "Arey baap re, ye 2 bucket water kahan dalu, 4 bucket water kahan dalu." No, ocean is full in himself, and therefore, similarly, Prabhupada says the laws of nature will work in the life of devotee also. What that means is that when we receive a human form of life, we come with certain karma. And more or less, we have to exhaust this karma. Bhogena punyam kushrena papam. Right? One has to expertly navigate through karma. And this is how the laws of material nature are going to work. But if one is fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, for he is introspective. Right? So he is not agitated. He is introspective. What is introspective? Later we'll come across this verse. Tate nukampa sushamikshamano Bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridva vapurbhir vidadan namaste jivetayo mukti padesa dayavak. So whenever there is a tribulation in the life of a devotee because of the laws of material nature, because of one's own karma, then what one has to do is one has to very carefully be introspective. And what is the meaning of introspective? The meaning of introspective is that one realizes what is the cause of my suffering. What is the cause of my suffering? I am only my cause of my own suffering. If at all by the virtue of devotional service anything is happening, sufferings are reduced. And therefore Prabhupada says, the laws of material nature may work. But if one is fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, for he is introspective. So introspective means always being grateful that at least I am engaged in devotional service. The laws of nature will work. There are devotees in their lives, there are so many heartbreaks. There are devotees who have lost their job. There are devotees who have lost their dear ones. So the laws of nature will work. If at all anything happens to devotee, the laws of material nature only will be, the intensity will be suppressed. Karmani nirdahati, right? But still, the karma that one comes with, one has to exhaust it. But still, one has to be continuously engaged in devotional service, just like the ocean is full. Similarly, a devotee has to be full with devotional service so that these waves of misery and material anxiety will not disturb such a devotee. He does not look outside to material nature, but he looks in for the spiritual nature of his existence. And with a sober mind, he simply engages in the service of the Lord. What is looking outside means where we are finding our shelter from, where we are finding our shelter in extreme misery, right? So this is what is the meaning of what when looking outside. So with a sober mind, devotee has to realize and one has to come back to engaging in devotional service. And such a personality, thus he realizes his own self without the false identification with matter. So this is called as realizing the self. Realizing the self is not the parrot like chanting Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. No, realizing the self means going through the tribulations of life for a lifetime, handling the karma, handling the impact of karma, and still adhering to devotional service. That is the meaning of being realized. Right. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. He sees himself and others in that right perspective. What an amazing purport Srila Prabhupada writes. So this is the perspective, and this perspective is beautifully summarized. What is that? Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparitvena nirmalam rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. That with this perspective, keeping aside all the upadhis, one has to firmly take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Come what may in my life, my dear Lord, I will never leave you, never leave your devotional service. And with this resolve, then one is actually called as he is seeing himself, or then and that is the point when he becomes Jivan Mukta, or the Mukti becomes his rightful claim. Text 45. Vasudeve Bhagavati Sarvagne Pratyagatmani Parena Bhakti Bhavena Labdhatma Mukta Bandhana. Translation?
Translation: He thus became liberated from conditional life and became self-situated in transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, the omniscient super soul with everyone. Purport: When one engages in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, one becomes aware that his constitutional position as an individual soul is to be eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Self-realization does not mean that because the Supreme Soul and the individual soul are both souls, they are equal in every respect. The individual soul is prone to be conditioned and the Supreme Soul is never conditioned. When the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate to the Supreme Soul, his position is called Labhadatma, self-realization, or Mukta Bandhana, freedom from material contamination. Material contamination continues as long as one thinks he is as good as the Supreme Lord or is equal with him. This condition is the last snare of Maya. Maya always influences the conditional soul. Even after much meditation and speculation, if one continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he is still in the last snares of the spell of Maya. The word parena is very significant. Para means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called para-bhakti. If one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is vidya bhakti, contaminated bhakti, one can actually become liberated by execution of para-bhakti. Another word mentioned here is sarva jnana. The super soul sitting within the heart is all cognizant. He knows I may forget my past activities due to the change of body, But because the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, is sitting within me, he knows everything. Therefore, the result of my past karma or past activities is awarded to me. I may forget, but he awards me suffering or enjoyment for the misdeeds or good deeds of my past life. One should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place, and what kind of reactions there will be is judged by the super soul, the witness. Hare Krishna.
वासुदेवे भगवती सर्वभूमे प्रत्यगात्मनि परेण भक्ति भावेन लब्ध्वात्मा मुक्त बंधना. And this is how Kardama Muni became Jivan Muktaha Mukta Bandhana. How? He thus, what is that thus? This is the previous verse. How he engaged himself. This is very clearly explained in previous verse. He thus became liberated from the conditioned life and became self-situated in the transcendental devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, who is Sarvagya and Pratyagatmani, who is within everyone. So Lord Vasudeva is called as Bhagavati, Sarvagya and Pratyagatmani. And he performed Parena Bhakti Bhavena, and thus he became Mukta Bandhana, liberated from material bondage of conditioned life. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, when one engages in transcendental loving service, one becomes aware of one's constitutional position. Now, becoming aware of constitutional position means not that I am supreme, right? We are part and parcel of the Supreme, individual and eternal. This is very important. Prabhupada says, self-realization doesn't mean that the soul thinks I am only the super soul. No. The conditioned soul will become liberated soul, but even liberated soul will never become Bhagavan. There are three personalities. There are, there is Jiva. Jiva may become fallen, or Jiva may remain unfallen, Kshara or Akshara. But the Supreme Lord is beyond Kshara and Akshara. Tasmat Kshara atitoham Aksharadapi chottama atosmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottama. So Lord says this in Bhagavad Gita. Tasmat, therefore, Kshara atitoham Aksharadapi chottama. I am beyond the Kshara, the fallible living entities, and Akshara, those who are Nitya Siddha, infallible living entities. The Supreme Lord is beyond both Kshara and Akshara, right? Further, Srila Prabhupada says, thinking oneself to be Lord is the last snare of Maya. And that's why this point will come again and again. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. That this is the last snare of Maya, to think I am only God finally. And one has to very carefully avoid this trap of Maya making us think that, oh, why don't you think you are only God? Right. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains the word Parena. Parena means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Parena, the devotional service performed by Kardama Muni, was Parena Bhakti Bhavena. Prabhupada says here, if one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, then that is called as Viddha Bhakti or contaminated Bhakti. We know that, people perform bhakti primarily for 4 reasons. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukrutino arjuna arto artharthi jitnyasu jnani. But progressively, of course, Lord Krishna says all of these are great personalities, they are udara. But progressively, one has to move towards pure devotional service. From the Viddha Bhakti, one has to go to Para Bhakti. And Para Bhakti means uncontaminated, pure devotional service. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The bhakti should become slowly ahaituki, and apratihata means without any hindrance. So this is the meaning of the word parena. And another word here used is sarvagya. The Supreme Lord, Super Soul, who is sitting in everybody's heart, is called as Sarvagya. And he is also called as Pratyagatmani. He is situated in everybody's heart, and therefore he is also called as Sarvatma. We have one devotee, nice devotee. His name is Sarvatma Prabhu. Sarvatma Prabhu means he is within, the Supreme Lord is Sarvatma, means he is, with every Atma. Right. So, and because he is there everywhere, he is there in everybody, he is conscious of everybody. And therefore he knows everything. And thus he is called as Pratyagatmani, Sarvagye Pratyagatmani. He is omniscient Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says, but a living entity is not like that. As soon as the living entity changes the body, he will completely forget what happened in that body. But that doesn't mean the karma will forget. Lord Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunemi vetitani karma, janmani tavacharjuna. Tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetta parantapah. My dear Arjuna, we both have taken many, many births. You have forgotten all of them. But I remember every birth. So Paramatma accompanies the Jivatma life after life. The same Paramatma continues, and Jivatma is reminded of his previous activities, previous desires, and therefore Jivatma will just get up and will start working in the new life. What to speak of new life? This happens every day in the morning. As soon as the Jivatma goes to sleep, he will have such a deep sleep in the morning before the Jivatma, before we get to the consciousness, we are reminded by Paramatma, oh, you are Mr. So-and-so, your duty is so-and-so, these are your desires, these are your activities. Chalo, move on. And this is how, so Prabhupada says here, one should not think that he is freed from the reactions because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. No, everything is accounted. Everything is accounted, everything will be carried forward. Just like there is a thief and he breaks ATM, steals some 5 lakh rupees, and next day he buys a coat and shirt and he's moving as a gentleman. That doesn't mean that he will say, I have forgotten that yesterday I was a thief. No, sir, you may have forgotten, but the police will catch you. So the karmas, they will always be there, and they are taken care, they are handed over, taken care. The desires are forwarded by this, and therefore the Lord is called as Sarvagya. Text 46. Atmanam sarvabhuteshu bhagavantam avasthitam apaschan tat sarvabhutani bhagavatyapichātani. Translation.
He began to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is seated in everyone's heart, and that everyone is existing on him, because he is the Supersoul of everyone. Purport. That everyone is existing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not mean that everyone is also Godhead. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything is resting on him, the Supreme Lord. But that does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also everywhere. This mysterious position has to be understood by highly advanced devotees. There are 3 kinds of devotees: the neophyte devotee, the intermediate devotee, and the advanced devotee. The neophyte devotee does not understand the technique of devotional science, but simply offers devotional service to the deity in the temple. The intermediate devotee understands who God is, who is a devotee, who is a non-devotee, and who is innocent, and he deals with such persons differently. But a person who says that the Lord is sitting is Paramatma in everyone's heart, and that everything is depending or existing on the transcendental energy of the Supreme Lord is in the highest devotional position.
So by practicing like this, Atmanam Sarvabhuteshu, Kardama Muni, he became Uttama Adhikari. Right. So Prabhupada, that's why he is explaining the 3 types of Adhikaris. He could see the Supreme Lord seated in everyone's heart, and then everyone is existing on him because he is the super soul of everyone. So when we hear this, we may also theoretically try to see it for a couple of hours. That exercise may continue. Oh, Atma is there, Atma is there, Atma. So one thing is knowledge, another thing is realization of that knowledge. So, the knowledge is important, but realization will come by practice and seva. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, everyone is existing on the Supreme doesn't mean that everyone is also Supreme. No. Everyone is, it's not that, that Mayavad one has to very carefully avoid. And this is very beautifully explained in Bhagavad Gita. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakthamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshu vastitaha. Everything is resting on me, the Supreme Lord, but that does not mean that Supreme Lord is also everything. And that's why people typically that, the Hindu gullibility, this happens is, they will worship everything. Say that everything is Krishna, everything is Lord's energy. and energy is non-different than the energetic, and therefore everything is worshipable. So this is taking this, the pendulum to another extreme. One extreme that one extreme is nirvisheshavad, another extreme is everything is so vishesh that everything is worshipable. But one has to very carefully avoid these traps. Prabhupada says there are three types of devotees: neophyte devotee, intermediate devotee, and Uttamadhikari, super advanced devotee. And Uttamadhikari is a personality. Neophyte devotee will appreciate only deity. Madhyamadhikari will know how to behave, he will appreciate deity, and he will know how to behave, how to conduct oneself. Prema, Maitri, Krupa, Upeksha. And now here Kardama is in the Uttamadhikari platform, that he sees the Lord seated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and everything is depending or existing on the transcendental energy of the Supreme Lord. And this is the highest devotional position, to be a Uttamadhikari. And this is how Kardama Muni, he attained the position of Uttamadhikari. Last verse, we'll recite this very beautiful verse. Ichha dvesha vihinena
इच्छाद्वेषविहीना
tatra samachetasa
सर्वत्र
सर्वत्र
समचेतसा
tena
Bhagavad
भगवती
Bhakti
युक्तेन
bhagavati gatihi.
Apta
Prapta
Bhagavati
Bhagavati
Gatihi.
Translation.
Freed from all hatred and desire, Kardama Muni, being equal to everyone because of discharging uncontaminated devotional service, ultimately attained the path back to Godhead. Purport: as stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can one understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, and after understanding him perfectly in his transcendental position, enter into the kingdom of God. The process of entering into the kingdom of God is Tripada Bhuti Gati, or the path back home, back to Godhead, by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life. Kardama Muni, by his perfect devotional knowledge and service, achieved this ultimate goal, which is known as Bhagavati Gati. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 24th chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Renunciation of Kardama Muni. Hare Krishna.
Ichha dvesha vihinena. So, freed from ichha and dvesha. Sarvatra samachetasa. Bhagavad Bhakti yuktena prapta bhagavati gatihi. Very, very beautiful verse. This is how Kardama Muni went back home, back to Godhead, attained Bhagavati gati. Freed from hatred and desire, Kardama Muni, being equal to everyone, samachetasa, and discharging uncontaminated devotional service, Bhagavad Bhakti yuktena prapta, ultimately attained Bhagavati gati, the path back to Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that in Bhagavad Gita, it is explained that only by devotional service one can understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, and also understand him perfectly in his transcendental position, and they only can enter the kingdom of God. Right? So, two verses here. One is very similar verse to this. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama gachanti amudha padamavyayam tat prapta bhagavatim gatihi. Very, very similar verse. And this is possible only by Bhagavad Bhakti yuktena. If we remember, Kardama Muni, the beginning of Kardama Muni is the yoga practice. Very intense yoga he was performing. And slowly that yoga was included with Bhagavad Bhakti. And now Bhagavad Bhakti yuktena, Bhagavad Bhakti took over the yoga. And that's why by the potency of uncontaminated devotional service, he attained the ultimate destination, that is Prapta Bhagavati Gatihi. Prabhupada says this is the ultimate goal of life, that one should be attaining the kingdom of God, which is called as Tripada Bhuti Gatihi. And this is possible by the transcendental knowledge and the practice of devotional service. And this is how we conclude this chapter, Canto 3, Chapter 24, the Renunciation of Kardama Muni. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
everyone.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Pradam Prabhuji.